Awesome. Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another live episode of Women Unleashed. Today, I have a beautiful guest, and we are going to be talking about the awakened feminine. It's a beautiful, delicious, favorite topic of mine. Because for a long time I have spent a a big part of my life living in the masculine world, living in the masculine belief system, which is great and amazing. That's how we really produce. But the problem for me was I didn't have any feminine in me, even though I was born very feminine. So this is going to be a fun and powerful conversation. I want to welcome you all. Those who have never been to Women Unleashed and are first time viewing this, what we do here is we create intergenerational transformation by me sharing with you guests from all over the world who are healers, coaches, leaders, strategists, authors, and multi-passionate entrepreneurs sharing their story that really transformed them, the story that made them realize that there's something to be transformed, a calling to be answered to. And as we share those stories, we also share with you the lessons we've learned and the frameworks that we use so that we can continue to help one another, and also women who are really wanting to transform their lives and their business as well. I am your host, Grace Harris. You are on Grace Harris, author and transformational coach, and a couple of other platforms. And what I would like for you to do is, if you are watching live, share it around and send it to people whom you think would benefit from this conversation. So without further ado, I want to welcome my guest from Western Australia. She is a really good friend of mine. I've met this beautiful woman years ago. We used to do a business together where we've traveled around quite a bit together as well. So it was really fun. We were a little bit younger. We were a little less wise. We were just as worldly and as girly as ever, but it's been quite a journey. So I know that I'm speaking to a woman of substance here today, and I want to introduce to you Miss Kaki Lee. My love, Kaki, how are you? Welcome.
I'm so excited. Thank you, Grace. I love you. And I just resonated with everything that you said about being in the masculine for so long, too long.
Yes, yeah, and I love you too. So let us begin. I always I put myself in the shoes of our listeners and our audience, and I really want to get to know you, Kaki. Tell me a little bit about who is Kaki, and what was really the story or the event in your life that had led you to be a spiritual healer, a coach, a leader, and to write a book called The Awakened Feminine. What was the story?
Yeah. So I am first and foremost a mother. So I have two young kids. They're 7 and 3. And I'm, like Grace said, I'm a coach, I'm a healer, author, podcaster. And what really led me to, I used to be a pharmacist. I used to run the hospital pharmacy in the children's hospital here. And really, what led me to start looking at changing my life path was the birth of my first daughter. I think for most mamas out there, once you have a child, your whole perspective of life and your priorities change. And I didn't actually know what I was looking for. I knew that after I had her, things that felt different. I told my boss, I remember, I'm like, I'll be back in 6 months' time. I'll be back at work. And he's like, no, you won't. So, and then of course I didn't, I extended it. But I felt like, oh, I really want to stay home with her. But I also knew I had to work. And when I went back to work, it was like, I don't want to be here. Something has shifted. It felt different when I was at work. And I can tell you, I'm a workaholic. I love my work. Work was my baby, especially because before I left, I was a chief pharmacist. So it was my baby. I'll be there like 12, 13 hour days, just working because I loved work so much. And then I had a baby. So I went, okay, I don't want to do this anymore. What is it that I want to do? And so I kept looking. And it was only actually after my second child that I found my calling. So between my first and second, there's 4 years there. So it took me 4 years before I kind of started actually really awakening, going, oh, okay, this is what I'm called to do. And from that point on, everything was just like accelerated. My life is completely different to what it was 3 years ago. Like I can't even like the Kaki 3 years ago could never have imagined what she's doing now.
Wow, I get that. It's like beyond the things that you would have ever dared to think of that you'd be doing because and I get the when you say you love work, um it's so true. We are such givers and doers and nurturers and in the hospital, as a chief pharmacist, before you were a chief pharmacist, you would have done, positions where to get into the chief pharmacy position, you would have been giving, really dedicating, committing every hour of the day and thinking about the people that you interact with and how you can, and it's such so typical of a woman to nurture and give and care. And the commitment when you say 12, 13, 14 hours, I so get that because it's such a hard thing to do. It's not so much that you were counting the hours, but you were feeling full as you served. And then you have this thing come out of your womb, which is a child, and all that love and service and nurturing is still there, but it has shifted to a different angle. It is now this, oh wow, look at this life here. It's, and so that must have been, were you bewildered? Like, I know you said, a lot of us moms our paradigm shift, but did you have like a bewildered moment when you had shifts in your mind? What was that like?
The part that I left out when I was talking was that I actually had postnatal depression. So I didn't know, and I think I was probably in denial because after my firstborn, I I just knew something was wrong as well. But then I didn't quite know, so that's why I was still like searching. And so it was when I need to get help, that was when I kind of went, right, I'm not living the life that I want to live. And there's like, I mean, there's so much, all the history from childhood and all the things kind of started coming up to be looked at because I think so many of us, we push aside all those things, we don't want to look at our our stuff, our baggage, all the experiences that make us who we are. And there's nothing wrong with it. It's just that we need to look at it sometimes to heal and really move forward, or things will just kind of keep going around in circles.
Yeah. It's also inconvenient, it's scary, it takes time. It's like why can't I just move on? Do I have to think about that? Do you know what
Mm.
I mean? That's why it's a very normal human kind of way of dealing with things is that I would rather just do the easy work where I just move forward. However, when these things come up, the reason that they do is because for a long time they have not been addressed.
Mm.
So we are pretty much most of us. The initial part of the calling is really the what they call the dark night, isn't it?
Mm.
That journey, that part of the journey where you go deep into the dark night phase and face your shadow, your demon, whatever you call it, your trauma, your memories. And as you do that, then you really shift into the awakened version of you, which is also a process on its own. It's encouraging to hear that from you, Kaki, because there will be women who will be listening to this who may not understand what they're going through. They may have had children recently and don't know who to talk to or how to talk about it, or even to just acknowledge it to themselves that, wow, there are some unnamed feelings here, or emotions or thoughts. How do I go about this? I think that to normalize what we go through is the key step to know that we are okay. We can talk about this, we can get help, we got this pretty much is what we're, this is gonna be where we're gonna end up on in this conversation of the awakened feminine. So wow. And then 2 kids later on, and you had. So tell me about the journey of discovering really what matters to you and what you're really passionate about. Because I was just, as I ask you this question, I'm just going to tell a quick story to the audience. Before Kaki and I went live here, um, I was out to lunch with my sister-in-law, and Kaki asked me how was lunch, and I was telling her that it was really fun. I saw my sister-in-law for the first time in 6 months, and here's the thing: my sister-in-law was sharing with me that she now is ready to transition from a job that she's had for 20 years to become someone of her own and do something that she loves. And when she talks about this, she lights up, right? Like I've never seen her light up before. And so this is my question to you, Kaki. Like, what was it like the first time when you thought of something that had you light up like that? What was it?
It was coaching. So I didn't know, I didn't even know there was something called coaching, like really. And it's like it found me in a way. I really remember this because it's so profound. It was when things just changed. I remember it was like October 2019, and I saw this lady pop up on my feed on Facebook, of course. And I went, oh, okay. And she was selling some meditation or something. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'll get it. And then I didn't even know who she was. And then I bought it. And then afterwards I Googled her. I'm like, oh, okay. So I started following her because I really felt her energy. And then at the end of the year, she had a webinar talking about, coaching. She's offering a course, da 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 da. And it was like she was speaking to my soul. My soul just went, yes, that's my calling. And so then in January 2020, that's when I, did her program on how to be a coach and da da da. And fast forward now, I'm doing it like that's my main role. But it was in that moment that I knew. And when I look back actually at my career as a pharmacist, as a chief pharmacist, as a manager, all the things I've done, coaching was the thing that lit me up when I was in my career. It wasn't the clinical pharmacy. To be honest, I have no interest really in like clinical, like it wasn't my thing, but it was a community, it was coaching, it was mentoring, it was making other people shine, making other people, helping other people that made me happy. So it was just like, oh, right. Isn't that amazing that I didn't know until that point in time?
Yeah, that's an amazing story. Spiritual leadership is all around us and even so much inside of us. Like if you look back, like you were telling me then, when you look back at your career as a chief pharmacist, it was being able to lead people into a path of inspiration, whether that is an hourly inspiration, daily inspiration, weekly inspiration, and being present there for them so that they can hold on to leadership, not so much leadership as in patriarchal, you have to do XYZ, but leadership of some sort that gives them a feeling of belongingness, a feeling of being heard, being understood, a feeling of safety, which only really, someone who has a lot of feminine energy can give. And when we say feminine energy here, nothing to do with whether you're male or female. And I know Kaki being my friend, the feminine energy is just oozing to really come out and serve. It's just for a long time we kind of like have this educational and academic paradigm that everything has to be done in a produce masculine way. Interesting you share that story because in my career as a business banker, I look back and it was really, I've had over 5,000 conversations with over 5,000 business owners, and it was that thing too that really floated my boat, so to speak, was to coach and mentor those business owners about who they really are and why they are in business. And the one thing that I've found in them is that yes, they all want to make the money, they all want to have the freedom and everything, all sorts of different industries. But the one thing in common is that they know their position in life, who they are, and what they stand for. And I think this is the journey of what Kaki is just sharing with us, is the journey of finding out, what do I stand for? Who am I? It's beautiful. So Kaki, now you're a speaker too, and coaching women, and I know you also are very passionate about helping others to become, to lead a more abundant kind of life and produce and create wealth in a divine way. So tell me about that.
Yeah, so I teach women and men, I guess, how to create money on the US stock market. It's something that I discovered probably a year before probably 2018, but I didn't actually start learning about this particular strategy that I teach until I had my first, not my first, had my second. So 2019, I was in the hospital and ringing my coach, and he's like, "Where are you?" I'm like, "I just had a baby." And he's like, "Why are you calling me?" I'm like, "The baby's sleeping. I need to do something." So I'm like learning how to trade, and I just have this thing where I learn something, but then I have to put my own twist and, just, yeah. So then what happened was I started understanding that, okay, I'm learning this really masculine, logical process, but I actually, when I bring in the feminine, bring in the intuition, the feminine flow, and just like normal everyday language that's not intimidating, like trading is so easy. It's just like, okay, money grows on trees, let's create money. It's very quick. So I'm really passionate about that, because as soon as I discovered the strategy, it was like, wow, I can make money in less than an hour per week. That, like, for a woman who's been, like, I'm talking about myself, for a woman who has been working 12-hour days, long hours, exchanging time for money, this was like a shift that my mind had to go, right, so I can make money without exchanging my time, and money can come easily. What is this? This doesn't compute in my head, because all my life, work hard, work hard, work hard to make money, work longer hours to make more money, work more jobs to make more money. It was never like, oh, I can click a button and make money.
Hmm.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yes. And you've nailed it in the head when you said about, we have been programmed in the slavery matrix for a long time. And understandably enough, the generation that had created this paradigm, they had to live through depression, they had to live through World War III. So, you can understand why they are attached to the work hard, work even harder, work again, and still do the work, even if you hate the work. Just go to work, 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 save, 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 and that's it. It's like you literally trade your life for, I don't know, like whatever small cash it is. It's like a selling your time, which and so and to discover, which is what you teach. That is only one way to do it. It's not the way to do it. I think it's a very important conversation, and I believe personally we are only in the inception stage of introducing this new conversation, especially to women out there and to men as well. And so, if I could ask you, Kaki, if you were to give, say, for example, maybe one key insight as to how do we embody our feminine side so we can relax and we can get into the zone of, hey, I can create money, I can create wealth without really putting my physical health in hazard. What can we do to get started with that kind of energy and flow?
Mm. I think the first thing is getting evidence because people don't believe it. So then they don't go and do it. Because the strategy I teach is like, it's nothing new, it's been around forever. And it's simple, but it's not easy. So the first step is really going, okay, that person's done it. So it's possible.
Hmm.
I think that's the first thing because without seeing evidence, people don't believe it. So finding the evidence first, and then once you go, ah, right, there is someone doing that. Okay, then you can think about what the next step is.
That's beautiful because there's no theories required, right? You're not having to theorize anything. It's just really execution and putting yourself in a state of commitment and decision that I am doing something in a different way rather than the way that had led me to burnout, led me to no time for family, no time for myself.
Yeah.
It makes it even such a double whammy kind of easy. I love that. Thank you.
Mm.
Awesome. No, I have been a guest in your podcast, and I loved my time there. I'm the Awakened Feminine, and you've now translated this podcast, the name of it, into a multi-author book. Tell me about the journey of the Awakened Feminine, and what does the Awakened Feminine mean as well, please?
Mm. Yeah. So before my podcast, I had no idea what the awakened feminine was. I had not heard of the term, and I'll do a quick overview of how I got my podcast name. It was literally given to me by the universe. it was just like that, and I went, oh, okay, well, that's the name of my podcast because the universe shouted in my ear to start a podcast at a time that a podcast was not even on my radar. So I went, okay, we'll drop everything that I'm doing and start this podcast. So throughout my journey on the podcast, I've interviewed over 100 women now. And it's, talking about what the awakened feminine is. And really at the core of what an awakened feminine is a woman who has really truly woken up to who they really are, to accept all the parts of themselves, to love who they are, to know what they are and what they aren't, to stand for what they believe in, to speak their truth, to be unapologetically themselves, to be unleashed, to be that wild woman that is underneath all the layers of, programming and bullshit that we've been succumb to by society. So for me, that's what the awakened feminine means. And getting a bit emotional talking about it. But yeah, just all the women that I've interviewed, it's really allowed me to see that that's the pattern of what, and not a pattern, but at the core, that's what awakened feminine is.
Hmm.
Yeah.
When you were speaking about it, I could really see the certainty and the conviction inside of you about the awakened feminine, and there was so much energy and power when you were describing the woman who speaks her truth, unleashed, knows the core of who she is, and after the podcast, it's still going, and it's a beautiful, beautiful podcast. We're gonna put the link in the comments below. Tell me about this multi-author book, which is also called The Awakened Feminine.
Yeah. So once again, the universe was nudging me onto this path. So actually, the backstory is beginning of this year, I kept getting nudges like start writing, start writing. And I'm like, yeah, I love writing. So for me, I went, yep, okay. But I was like, I've got all this stuff to do. Let's just push it aside. And of course, the universe is like, you need to start writing. So presented me an opportunity to be part of a multi-author book through a podcast guest, actually. And she's like, oh, I just loved being on your podcast. And I just feel that you'll be such a great fit for this book. I went, oh, wow. So I said yes. Through that, I met someone and I did a second multi-author book this year. So I've done two books in like less than 6 months. And I had this inspiration to write a self-children's book. So it wasn't even about a multi-author book. And I was like, oh, I'll contact the lady, Adriana, about, how do I publish children's books? And before I spoke to her that morning, I had this title of a book come through to my head. So the title of the book is The Awakened Feminine: Stories of Women Awakening to Who They Truly Are. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I was talking to Adriana about children's books. And then I just went, oh, actually, can I ask you about, multi-author books? I just had this like title come through before I spoke to you. And she just went, yes. So it was like not even a conversation about a multi-author book. It was completely different. And this is what transpired. And so because like one of my missions really is to help raise women up to share their stories, to share their love and wisdom, it was like, okay, this is the next evolution of that. It's into a book form. And what I love about books is that I mean, I love conversations like we are having now, but when you have a story, it's like it's this structure, it's your full story, and it's in a way that you want it written. It's very healing when I mean, Grace, you've written a book and I love your book so much, but it's just so healing. It's just so beautiful. And for anyone that, um, wants to be an author and don't know how, or they just want to kind of dip their toes in, multi-author books are a really great way. And for me, the community aspect is my favorite part of it, because now I've met all these women from 2 multi-author books now who they're like so supportive, and I can go and ask for help, and there are people that help me, and it's like, oh wow, I don't need to do business alone. I don't need to do anything alone. I've got people that will support me. It's building that community. That's my favorite part of it. And yeah, so it really just makes me really happy to be able to birth this. And it's my 3rd book, and number 3 in Chinese means birth. So it was just like, okay, yeah, it's just feels really good to do this. Yeah. So I'm now like calling in the authors or the women that I feel have an energetic fit for this book to be part of it.
Wow, that's amazing. I just love that, part of the title being, women who to awaken to who they truly are. It's such a big part of my framework is to really get back to remembering who you really are and what you're really capable of. That divine feminine power that's been asleep for a long period of time, that when you combine that with every masculine skill and masculine energy that we have inside of ourselves, you are just unstoppable, unshakable, and uh, you know create such a creatrix of whatever life that you wanna create. So in the multi-author book, Kaki, and I love what you said, being in a community where you realize you don't have to be alone in creating a future, because there's all this group of bunch of women with you in the multi-author book that you can talk with, and you can run ideas with, and really become really good friends with. So for those who are listening right now, I know there are so many, I know personally myself, I know there are so many women who are wanting to put their stories out there verbally as well as in written form. And yes, creating a whole big entire book is a whole completely different minefield again. So a multi-author book is a beautiful baby step. I myself started with an ebook and then a multi-author book before I actually released and published my own best-selling memoir. So it is a beautiful baby step. So for those who are listening right now, how can you talk about, okay, if we have an energetic connection, tell us a little bit more about this woman, this awakened feminine, so that they can really tune into connecting with you and having this conversation with you, whether the awakened feminine is the right baby step for them.
Yeah. So if you hear the term awakened feminine, I think most people, when they hear it, they know whether it's for them or not. But I'm really calling for women, entrepreneurs, professionals, coaches, healers who have a story where, like pretty much what me and Grace have been talking about, where you were in one place and you just had this awakening to go, wow, that's not the life that I want to lead anymore. And you've got this story where you transformed into someone who knows who they are. And the thing is, we're always continuously transforming. So don't think that, oh, but I'm just in the middle of my transformation. You've lived a life. You have transformed, you have awakened. It's just that there are different stages, and we need the stories of all the different stages, because there are people at every single stage, and we need to know those stories.
I love that. That is so amazing. So, what Kaki said is so true. We are continuously growing, evolving, transforming. And to actually think that, oh, I haven't fully transformed yet, therefore I don't want to, I don't know if I can tell a full, complete story. It's not about a full complete story, but a story of evolution to inspire a soul, to maybe to inspire a couple of souls, or some souls, or a bunch of people. Like I will say to you, to those who are listening right now, the multi-author book that I was in, it was called Make a Difference, back in 2000 and, oh goodness, I can't remember the year, probably in 2018 or 19. The story that was in there is still part of what's true for me. It was, it happened. However, I now can put all sorts of different lights and different angles into that particular event, based off of my growth and my transformation as a leader, as a coach. And it is still so important for that piece of legacy to be written the way that it was written, because like Kaki said, we each of us have different stages in our lives, and we have different needs. And so when she was saying this, I was thinking about all these things that you can see on walls and caves and scriptures in the, like, thousands of years ago. We needed those to be written so that now we can get an insight of what that life was and how they have evolved before us, that led our humanity to be who we are right now, and understand why we go through the things that we go through. And really, to be part of a multi-author book, I feel like, yes, it's a baby step to becoming having your own full book, but also to know that all through your life you have sprinkled inspiration, you have sprinkled hope, you have sprinkled legacy. It just makes you feel so in tune with your calling. And I don't know about you ladies who are listening here, but women who have stepped into the calling of their calling, like Kaki and myself, that just feels really, yeah, how would you describe that, Kaki? How does it feel for you? Let's talk about this. That you have stepped into and said yes to this calling, even without really knowing the full picture of it. What's that feel like?
Right. Like at this moment, I can say it's the best thing that I've ever done. At the beginning, when I was stepping into it, I can't quite say that. I was, so scared. I did not know what I was doing. But when you say yes and you just trust that there was a reason why you're taking this step, and you just follow through, what you get on the other side is, yeah, I don't even have words for it. It's
I'm getting emotional, actually.
we always get emotional on each other's podcast.
We do this a lot. Sorry, guys. But yeah, yeah, that was just made me emotional. Because I know the journey, right? Like Kaki said, you say yes, and oh my God, this is scary. But this, the feeling of just saying yes, there's this surge of whatever it is, like I don't even know what kind of hormone that is. There's this surge of life force. I think they
Mm,
call it the chi in
yeah.
Reiki, that you've never felt before. And you become more familiar with it as you keep saying yes and surrender to the calling. And as you say yes to it, it gives back to you. So it's like this dance of life force. You give, you receive, you give, you receive, and there's this big light ball of energy that's just really growing. And then you, and this is what they call ascension. A lot of people think ascension is the earth is gonna levitate like.
No.
But yeah, being more light really is the ascension process, and I'm so happy to hear your giggle again. I love your giggle, Kaki. This is what I live for when we talk to each other. So contagious. Um, yeah, so that's just so amazing. And so, how? What is the next step? What's the next baby step following the awakened feminine? What can we look forward to with from you, Kaki?
Whew. Right now, I'm just really excited about my book. So that you'll be seeing me like talking about my book all the time. But I feel my podcast, I feel the energy shifting for my podcast. I've had a little break from recording, but yeah, I feel that there's another shift in what it'll be like when I jump back into recording. Actually, tonight is my first episode since my break. So yeah, so watch this space. I don't know. It just feels like it's even more powerful than before.
Mm. And
Mm,
that is exactly what the awakened feminine is. It's more of the essence and not so much worrying about the form, because the essence is really what drives the journey, which is the experience, which is really what's worth living for. Because too often, and this happens so much, is that we get driven by the outcome, we get driven by the goal, we get driven by the result, we get driven by what's it's gonna look like. And when we have the outcome, the goal, what it's gonna look like, we get there and we're like, now what? Because we've forgotten to enjoy the journey and the process, which is really what matters, is the journey and the process. What was that saying? It's not what happens in the end, but who you become in the process.
yeah.
Or something around those
Yes.
lines. I forget. Yeah. Um, this has been an amazing conversation. Kaki, is there, for all the women out there who are listening to us, can you give them, three insights about the journey of the awakened feminine from the catalytic point, from the event that had shifted them, and what are three things that they can embody easily without having to freak themselves out too much, so that they can move forward with ease, grace, and flow?
Mm. I think the first one is acceptance. We don't want to, a lot of times we just don't want to accept like all the things that aren't going the way that they're supposed to. So I know that's probably the hardest one. You said ease, grace, and flow, but accepting where you are now, and then being grateful for everything that has happened for you before and for you right now, and what will happen in the future, the unknown future. And then the third thing really is just being open to what comes your way. There's a lot of times there's opportunities that present itself, but because we are so scared of it, we just shut the door in its face without even considering it. So being open. So I think acceptance, accepting where you are, being grateful, that's such a big thing. Grateful, and then just opening yourself up to all the possibilities there are in the universe, and there's unlimited, infinite opportunities and possibilities for you. Yeah.
Mm, thank you. It sounds for me like it's really just to accept, to feel the gratitude of what's happened and where I am now, and to be open. I think for me it sounds a lot like just really being self-nurturing and being self-aware. It's not so much like, when we talk about ease, grace, and flow here, it's not so much being frantic about what to do next. Again, that masculine analytical, letting go of that. But there's not much to do next, because what's next is gonna come to you when, what Kaki said, the stillness, the being, just sitting in your essence of, okay, well, I'm in this space, let me just ground myself in this space, acceptance, and thankful that I am alive. I do have this house and this family, this community that cares about me, and just surrendering, being open. I am yours, take me, I'm here. It's often we can overthink these things, but I guess from a woman who's been through quite a bit of these transformations, me and Kaki, it looks a lot like that, really, just being still.
Mm. Yeah. I find when you actually overthink and you're pushing and striving and doing all the things, you actually are worse off. Mm.
It's almost like a shield that you're delaying the universe to come to you, you know.
Yeah, it is definitely. I find I get the most gifts and I get everything that I need when I actually am still and just let things come, because I'm going within and I'm not looking outside for all the things that I need to do.
I think it's the most beautiful reminder ever, for all of us, and especially too today. I just realized it's the halfway mark of the year, so it's a
Mm.
really really good time. We've also just had the new moon, which is all about setting new intentions and resetting. So just, yeah, just a loving reminder to everyone. If it's something you've not done for a while now, to being still and just going within, like Kaki said, that would be so amazing. So, my love, where can we listen to your podcast, and how can we connect with you to talk about alignment, perhaps, if this multi author book is for us?
Yeah, sure. So my podcast is on Apple and Spotify. So if you just Google the Awaken Feminine podcast, you'll see my face. You'll see my podcast there. Also on YouTube as well. And if you want to find out a bit more to see if we're a match for the book, then either find me on Facebook and send, or Instagram and send me a DM, or just email me. Probably that might be the easiest. So my email is hello@kakilee.com.
And that's KAK
Kakilee.
com. And we'll put all those links on the comments below for you, ladies and gentlemen. And I will give it over to you, Kaki, to give us one last piece of wisdom or loving words before we close it off to our listeners.
Yeah. I really think now is, that your time to shine. I think we've been, like, all of us have been just so scared of dreaming bigger, thinking bigger. And now is the time to really just open yourself up to everything that you desire, because it's possible. There are people that have done it before and they're no different to you. Just know that you are just as worthy, just as deserving, just as enough as the people that you look up to, because you want those things, and you, like, the fact that you want those things, they are already yours. You just need to believe it in order to be able to get it.
I love that. Thank you, my
Thank
love, and thank you, everyone. So we'll say goodbye, and we will see you again on a live episode of Women Unleashed. And connect with Kaki, connect with me if you do have any questions. And we love you. Take care. Bye.
Bye.